Hey everybody, my name is Brendan Noble and I'm a young adult author. Welcome back to my Slavic Saturday series where we talk about Slavic history, mythology, and folklore, specifically related to my Slavic fantasy series and the first book in the series, A Dagger in the Winds. This week I'm very excited because we're talking about a protector who is very relevant to my first book in the series and the whole series as well, and that is the Płanetnik or the Zduhać, depending on which region you're looking at. And it's a very exciting creature that is the protector of the winds, sky, and weather. And they're going to play a huge part in these stories, but they're also just a very fun and exciting and powerful creature, so I'm excited to talk about them. But first, I want to remind you that I'm still looking for advanced readers, which are people that are looking to potentially get a free copy of A Dagger of the Winds early in exchange for a review on Amazon or other sites as well. If you're interested in that, there's links down in the description below, so be sure to check that out. But now let's dive into the Płanetnik. So the Płanetnik, or Dragon Men as it's sometimes translated, particularly in the Serbian areas, is a kind of interesting protector because unlike most protectors that are just only demons, the Płanetnik can be either a demon, and particularly someone who was drowned or hung, but it could also be a person. And this is a kind of rare duality here where it can be a person with these powers but also just be a demon. So I'll be referring to the people who have these powers as what's called an earthly Płanetnik, or in Polish is called the Ziemski Płanetnik. So there's that contradiction, but the demons are just called the Płanetnik. It can be kind of confusing, but there is this duality that kind of creates an interesting contrast between the two different types. So the demonic Płanetnik is typically pictured as either a hobgoblin, an ugly hobgoblin, or a tall old man who wears a kind of white traditional linens. They're often pictured with, almost always pictured with, a straw hat that's meant to protect them from storms or the sun. This is also for both the Ziemski Płanetnik and the demonic Płanetnik, where the straw hat is almost the massive emblem of this demon or protector. Meanwhile, the Ziemski Płanetnik is very difficult to tell from the average person. They are just a person during the day. They walk around often looking like farmers and doing farm work during the day, but at night, the difference is that when they sleep, their soul leaves their body, and this means they're often very sleepy during the day, and so it was thought that if a person was very drowsy all the time, that they might be a Ziemski Płanetnik. So like I said, the Płanetnik, or the Ziemski Płanetnik specifically, their soul would leave their body when they slept at night, and this happened because they didn't have their powers while they were awake. They only had the power while they were sleeping, and so their soul would fly, and then they would be able to fight bad weather or storms with this power. And this made them important protectors of villages and crops, because these storms, especially hail and other things, could really damage crops. And so at night, the Ziemski Płanetnik would fly around and particularly try to fight either other Ziemski Płanetnik or Płanetnik that are causing storms to be deflected towards their village, or they would fight these type of creatures called shalas or alas that are other storm demons that are particularly just nasty storm demons that cause especially hail storms or massive just thunderstorms in general that could damage the crop. And there would be massive fights, particularly on the mountaintops, between these different creatures. The key thing is, if the Ziemski Płanetnik's soul was killed on these mountaintops, they never returned. So these were very important battles. But if they did succeed, it often meant they would kind of gain riches because their village would be successful in the long run. So the success of a Płanetnik could be very important for the village. And these battles were often pictured as massive storms over these mountains because the Płanetnik don't really have weapons. They use the storms and the winds particularly as their weapons. They pick up the trees, they pick up other objects that are around and fling them at the other Płanetnik or the Ala to fight them. And this causes these massive storm battles that could be particularly were believed to be amazing to see. And during this period of sleep, the Ziemski Płanetnik were actually very vulnerable as well, because their body was still laying wherever they fell asleep, and if someone moved their body and they could never come and find it, they would die because they couldn't return to their physical body. So this made them vulnerable, and they had to make sure that their body was resting in a safe location while they were going out and trying to defend the village. So Ziemski Płanetnik here were thought to have very similar powers over the winds, the sky, and the weather, but their demonic brothers and cousins were thought to have a slightly different powers. There's some that were thought to be weaker, some that were thought to be stronger, and the weaker ones would tend to work on building the clouds from fog, and then turning them into rain clouds, storm clouds, hail clouds, etc. Other ones would create lightning through these clouds, and then lastly, the strongest of the Płanetnik would guide the storms themselves, either to good or ill. Typically, again, the Płanetnik were thought to be friendly, but if you tick them off, they could be very angry and destroy your village very quickly. Now, Płanetnik were thought to be very well respected in these communities, especially the Ziemski ones. If they visited your home, you were expected to give them hospitality, feed them, and allow them to rest. And during this time, you would not ask them of their identity. It's kind of like a superhero-esque thing here, where they were expected to receive some anonymity based on their status as a Płanetnik. There was also, people would throw flour into the sky during the night in tribute to the Płanetnik, and they would also burn herbs that were thought to be helpful to the Płanetnik in some way. During these times, it was also thought that you shouldn't throw anything into the air because the Ziemski Płanetnik were invisible, that this could injure them. And so you wanted to make sure that you didn't hurt them while they were trying to protect your village. Now, I mentioned how important this creature protector is to the story and A Dagger in the Winds, and that's because our main character, Václav, has always wandered at night. His soul has always left his body, and he's never known exactly why. But when the goddess Marzana, who is one of the antagonists of the story, sends a Zmora, which is another type of demon, to attack Václav, he discovers a power within himself that would have been there the whole time, but he never knew. I can't reveal too much more. You'll have to check out the story once it's released. Until then, that's all I have for you this week. I look forward to talking to you about more of Slavic mythology next week on our Slavic Saturday series. As always, if you're interested in being an advanced reader, click the link down below, as well as remembering to like and subscribe if you like these videos.